Seelengespräche,
Deep Dive
and Fly High mit Sol,
unserer.
Ein Podcast voller Freude, Herz und Wahrheit.
Für alle, die bereit sind, tiefer zu tauchen und mit dem Flow höher zu fliegen.
Für die Seelen, die sich erinnern wollen.
Für dich, denn du bist es wert, geliebt zu sein. Abonniere diesen Kanal oder folg uns auf Spotify und YouTube für mehr tiefe Folgen und hohes Fliegen.
Denn du bist es wert, geliebt zu sein.
Hello, beautiful, wonderful people. We are here in Soul Talk, Deep Dive and Fly High. And for the very first time, we are speaking in English because we are very international. We just had our Women's Circle celebrations for 5 years, and we figured out that we had like more than 15 nationalities. So it's wonderful that we can have the space to talk also in English. And I'm not alone here. I'm so happy to have this space and this talk with Dr. Eugene Lipov that we met each other in Chicago in his beautiful space where he takes his client. I found at first like Palo Santo here, and there were stones there, and I was so happy to be there with my friend that was so excited to meet you, and she was like so happy to have this opportunity to work together with you. So beautiful, and I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about you. Like, introduce yourself. People who want to know what you do, who you are, like what fascinates you.
What are you all about? So I'm an anesthesiologist by training. So the reason I ended up to be an anesthesiologist, I was studying to be, I finished medical school in Chicago. And then I started residency in surgery. And then my mother took her life when I was surgical resident, and I became an anesthesiologist, pain physician. And I've been able to figure out that a procedure called stellate ganglion block, which is an injection in the neck, takes away PTSD. So my focus in the last 18 years is what I call psychophysiology, using physiological modulation or something you can do to biology of the body to help with mental health. And we've had some pretty crazy, great responses. And so, what excites me is saving lives, basically. And I feel strongly about, especially in women, because of my mother. So, a couple concepts that people, I think, are not cognizant about or confused about. One is it's called secondary PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, where typically a man, not always a man, comes home from the war or whatever, and then they're abusive to the woman typically, and the woman develops PTSD and the children develop PTSD. That's called secondary PTSD. So the way I liken it is to STD, because like when I used to be an ER doc, somebody has STD, you treat one partner, the other one's going to keep giving it back and forth. So if you can treat it, the whole family markedly improves. We've seen amazing improvements in special forces and their brides, some children. And I think I'm extremely excited to do that. If I can do that and it can reduce the chance of suicide, I've had to go through it. My father had to go through it. I'd rather not have anybody else to do it. And I think there are ways now which are effective and successful to do that. So that's kind of what gets me up in the morning every day. Not to mention treating people with PTSD, or there is a name change I'm trying to try and change the name PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, to PTSI, post-traumatic stress injury. When people talk about PTSD, commonly they call it an invisible wound, that you cannot see it. My answer to that, it's invisible if you have the wrong scanner. If the right scanner, such as functional MRI, PET scans, MEG scans, you can actually see the change in the brain. So I did a study in 2023 that shows that if we change the name PTSD to PTSI, stigma will get better. If stigma gets better, people seek care, they don't isolate, and they're going to survive. So those are, just a few things I've been working on for 18 years, and we've had some successes,
That's
significant
pretty
success.
fascinating. That like from somewhere where there was so much pain, you were talking about your mother that came from that surely also had an impact in your childhood, to take all this and to transform it into something that people can use nowadays and they get help. And it's such a blessing to have somebody that is so fascinating by helping other people like you do. And I think this is like pure passion, and I know that you've been working since a long time on this project with all your heart and with all your mind too. And now there is a book that's been born, The God
Yes.
Shot, right?
Yes. It's not out yet, but I'll show what it looks like. I'm extremely proud of it. The young lady who actually wrote the book, because I'm not a particularly good writer, I'm more of an idea guy, but she did a beautiful job. So I don't know if you could see it. Find it, you can pre-order it if you want. It's called thegodshotbook.com. But the name of it, the Godshot, was something that a Marine coined actually in 2014, something like that. Because he said he named it that because it changes lives. So I thought it was a great name. And then somehow or other, a Playboy journalist wanted to write an article about that in 2016. So if you go on that website, you can actually read the article in Playboy, which I never thought my name would be used in Playboy, of all places. But they did a great job writing an article by a military officer who happened to be also a great writer. Um, so basically, the idea behind the book was to try to, I call it sciencey. It's really not boring like a lot of science, whatever, that people don't understand, a lot of technical stuff. I'm writing a book like that for scientists. This is nothing like that. So it has a lot of examples. It also talks about PTSI, the name, the need to change the name. It talks about secondary PTSDs, talks about very basic mechanisms in the brain, which are important to keep in mind what you can actually do. Like, for example, you can play Tetris game, and it helps PTSD. The question is, why does that work? Because it makes really no sense, like a video game would be kind of therapeutic. It also looks at least my perspective, of current therapeutics which are being used, which is medications, psychological interventions, and there are different kinds, psychedelics, and the way forward. How do you, after you read the book, okay, so you have a problem, what do you actually do? So I used to be a trauma surgeon, right? A lot of discussion. You don't have the time when somebody's bleeding to death to discuss things. So I want things that move rapidly and they work. So stellate, the stuff I do, is very fast acting and it can last for years. And you can actually see the result very rapidly. So every time I see it, I feel like my mother is patting on my back saying, hey, you're doing a great job. You've done something good with something that I handed you, which was not the best.
Yeah.
So it was a great book to write, and it ends on chapter of hope. So to me, if you have hope, like real hope, nobody kills themselves. If you have no hope, if you have a lifestyle of PTSD, of misery, you can see why people take their lives. And also, it's not just adults. People forget children. So the highest suicide rate in kids currently has been reported 2024 compared to, I think, ever. This is the highest suicide rate in civilian adults since 1941, which is beginning of World War II. So whatever we're doing, we're in the wrong track. It's time to change.
Yeah.
And right. So that's why I think it's really important. That's why the name, the God Shot, I really love, because changing life is what we're all about. physiologically, right? Saying that, knock it off, snap out of it, is just not a very effective methodology, usually gets people quite angry.
Yeah.
So I think it has some humor in it. I think it's fun, and it's only 180 pages. It's not very long. It's meant to be factful to the point and scientifically accurate, right? Because I have to stand behind everything I write, obviously, because I can't
Yeah.
just have tons of um, non-supported opinions. And I take certain stance, like for example, MDMA to me is a scary drug. Psilocybin, I think, is great. Ibogaine is great, but it can kill you. So there are ways to make it safe. It's not just
Yeah.
one thing. It's not just doesn't just talk about stuff I do. I'm trying to make it around. It's supposed to work with anybody who's been traumatized or somebody you know. So the
Yeah.
chance of either yourself or somebody you know being traumatized, that's a lot of people.
What would you say? What is a good question to ask um, themselves for the people that are listening right now? If it's something that they should try it out, if they did a lot of things and it still didn't work, they still feel depressive, or they still, yeah, lost the hope, like you said,
I
to
think there are a
live
couple
with
of
more
questions.
energy.
I think the first question is I think before you start the journey, you have to understand why you're going there, right? That's the first step. So the amount of people I've treated, a lot of mainly women say, I haven't been to war, I haven't been raped. How can I have PTSD? That's not possible. My answer is our psychiatry buddies has not done a good job because psychiatrists define PTSD as something outside human experience, like being in military action, rape, something horrible. Turns out you can get PTSD from social media. You can be bullied. You can have multiple little things happen. Over time, it adds up and you can get PTSD. So that's number one. It's possible to get PTSD, or I'll keep using PTSD just for simplicity. You can get PTSD from almost anything. So that doesn't really matter. So just if your listeners take away one thing from this, know that it's possible to get PTSD without something horrific happening. You can have like bullying or difficult childhood or stuff like that. So that's possible, number one. Number two, how do you know you have it? If you want to be technical, you can take a PCL-5 test, which is PTSD checklist. You can go on my website, which is drugenelipov.com, and there's a PCL test. If you fill that out and you're above 35, poof, you have PTSD. If you don't want to do that, so ask yourself a couple questions, or you can ask actually the people who really know are people you live with. Are you cranky all the time? Do you have nightmares? Are you impulsive? Somebody comes by, touch you in the shoulder, and you feel like you want to punch their face in. That's not a good thing. That's a problem, right? It's certainly a problem for you. It's certainly a problem that you may, if you hit your wife because somebody touched you, and doesn't help in the relationship particularly much, right? So hypervigilance, you're always looking around for bad things to happen, and you always have a feeling of doom. Like you get up in the morning, you go, I know this is going to be a terrible day. Either somebody's going to take my money, somebody's going to rob me, whatever. Something bad will happen. So if you have those symptoms, those are symptoms of PTSD. So
Okay.
you could just, a lot of people say, well, I've never been military. I've never really had a huge thing. Oh, I had a horrible childhood, but yeah, it's over. Oh, it's not over. It's still with you. In fact, it changes genetics. And if you don't treat it, that genetic change goes 2 or 3 generations, so you can give it to your children. Somebody who's PTSD who's untreated, first of all, it's a miserable way to live. I had it. I had my treatment. I've done great, thank God. Um, but the other part is, if somebody has PTSD, the chance of having heart attacks is twice as high.
Wow.
Biological aging is increased. So people increase biological aging. So they age faster. And you can actually show it using epigenetic clocks, but we can get into that. But the interesting is it's reversible. The point is it's reversible. There is hope. There is a way you can deal with it. But I think the first step
So
is that you have to
important.
realize it's possible you have that.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm talking about biology. You can do a scan. in the head, you go, poof, you have something going on. There's no stigma, right? If you have a broken leg, who's going to argue about it,
Yeah.
right? Because you can see it. You have X-rays, you have a broken leg, or you have a bone sticking out. Well, that's pretty obvious. It's not as obvious in the brain, but with modern scans, you can actually see it. So
Yeah.
I think if you can really believe that, and you ask, you know, like it's like I treat a lot of special forces guys. I ask them, like, oh, no problems at all, tough. You ask their wives, they go, are you kidding me? That PCL, you're saying it's 10? It's 90. What are you talking about? You do this? Oh yeah, I do this. Oh, you do this? Oh, I do. Oh yeah, of course I do this. It's normal. It ain't normal.
Yeah.
It ain't normal. Nuh-uh.
It's so interesting, like that everybody has another reality and sees, and you can see somebody on the street and ask them, and they think they're normal. That everybody has nightmares, that everybody going to traumas,
Right.
that everybody thinks that will be a bad day. So it's very interesting, all inside the brain, how it
Well,
works,
because
and
no,
to look
you're right.
deeper, right?
Well, because people normalize everything, right? If you have a broken, if you were born without toes, let's say, and you walk weird, it's normal to you. But if somebody looks at your foot that has all the toes, they go, well, that's a weird walk. Well, I've been always doing it like this. Well, always doesn't mean it's right,
Yeah.
right? Because now, I mean, if you have whatever, if you could fix underlying problem, instead of barely walking, maybe you can run now. So instead of existing, you can flower, right? You can
Yeah.
have a full life. Another thing PTSD does, which it gives people so much misery. I've seen it in my father. It was just horrible. Um, and, you know, I was my way to live like that. But the other thing is to think about PTSD in men, at least 85% of men have sexual dysfunction from PTSD.
Wow.
And the way I describe it to the guys, it's like if you're running from the tiger, you want nothing sticking out, right? Sympathetic system basically goes, you're not doing that right now. All you do is run. If you're running all the time, then that's what happens. But think about it. Somebody who has, they're always, you know, a lot of doctors are like that, military person, CEOs, whatever. They're always busy. They're very, very busy. They're always busy, 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 busy. They try and distract themselves. If you're running away from yourself, you know what? That's a tough job. You're not going to go very far.
Yeah. Yeah. And then usually who doesn't take time to take a break, they will be broken by the life, like because life's gonna stops you and say, you know what, you don't want to take a break for yourself, so let's make
Well,
an
make
end,
sure you
and
take a
it
break, right?
feels uncomfortable, right? Because we
But
don't
think about why people don't take breaks like that. They're in their environment, doctors, CEOs. People go, oh, great, you're an amazing person. So you always have this positive thing going on. And then, as opposed to when you go home, your wife, let's say it's wife, treats you like a normal person, or should treat you like a normal person. You have to take out the garbage, you have to do this, you have to be by yourself, you have to keep yourself entertained. You don't have all the support around you. So people like that typically don't take vacation every 5 years, and they can last a couple of days and then they have to go back. It's like, oh, vacation was too hard. Okay. Yeah, because you took yourself with you. The monkey of PTSD is still in your back. You can't leave it at home. In fact, it gets much worse when you leave the house.
Yeah. So very, very interesting. what what kind of transformation did you saw from people that did the treatment with you? What was a story that it's like a highlight for you, and that you look back and you say, wow, this is a beautiful, beautiful testimonial story.
So I'll give you a couple. One of them was this woman who, you know, could barely look at me, like she was very shy, you know, like this. You could just see she's depressed. So we did the injection. She comes out beaming. She's smiling. She looks proud of herself. Chest is back. She looks healthy. And she says, I have not been able to take a deep breath for the last 20 years.
Wow.
And then she also goes, you know, the colors are all beautiful. I feel so calm. I haven't felt calm like that forever. I have another kind of cute story, which I just love the story. So we treated this guy. I think he was from Wyoming. He was a firefighter, and he had severe PTSD from taking out dead people from fires, whatever. Anyway, so we treat him, and he was really happy, gave me a high five. He said, "I feel great." Da, da, da. He calls me back 2 years later, and he goes, "Hey, doc, we had a child." I go, "Oh, congratulations, that's great." He said, "No, I think you don't really understand. So my wife and I have been trying to conceive for 20 years. We conceived the day after your procedure." And, we have this cute little girl, sends me a picture of this cute blonde girl. And he said, "What do you think we named the girl?" I said, "I don't know." He goes, "Jordan." I said, "Why?" "Michael Jordan for Chicago." I was like, "Okay, that's very interesting." So then the question is, since I like physiology, the question is, why did that happen? Right? So fertility and PTSD actually is another story altogether. So a lot of women who have PTSD are not fertile for a couple of reasons. So we've had women get conceive and things like that, which is great. But in this particular case, so we talked about sexual impact of um, stellate and PTSD. In fact, I wrote a chapter on that. People who are interested in the sciencey part of that, it's on my website. I think it was 2018. It was called Intimacy, was the name of the book, PTSD Intimacy, like that. Anyway, so in order to conceive, you need a couple of things, obviously. You need all the equipment to work and fit. But if women have orgasm, the chance of conception is significantly higher because uterus kind of sucks up all the stuff that's floating around. So I think that's what happened because his function improved because he was relaxed and calm and his sexual function improved. And I think everybody was in the right place at the right time. But I thought the Jordan, that was just the cutest story in the world. That was just amazing. And then the other cute
This is
story,
really a beautiful
isn't that
story.
cute?
Yeah, I really celebrate that so much.
The other one was we took care of this gentleman, very high power guy from Puerto Rico. He came in, we treated him, and then he brought his girl with, another cute 5-year-old girl. And, I was joking around with her. Anyway, so he came back because his tension increased. I mean, he runs this big financial company. So he came in and for the next procedure, like a year later, and he had audio message for me from the girl. And she said, "Dr. Lipov, thank you for fixing my daddy. We are so happy." And I thought, oh my God, that is the funniest thing in the world. When a 5-year-old knows, I mean, there's no bullshit, right? They
Yeah.
know when the parents are okay or not. They know they're not
Yeah.
stupid.
Yes,
Emotionally, yeah.
especially the children, they feel so much like the energetic signature changes and the
Oh yeah.
child can notice it. And
And his wife, this amazingly beautiful young lady, said, the temperature in the house is down. But I like the daughter's description better.
thank you so much for sharing these wonderful stories. Really, it makes
Isn't
me
that funny?
laugh and a big, big smile on my face to see that it works. And I also saw it with a client of you that is a friend of mine from Chicago. I'm not gonna name it, but it was very beautiful because it wasn't just one more person. You really had this kindness, this sweetness, this, oh, do you need a blanket? Do you need something to drink? It was like so, it was like, yeah, it was like coming home again somehow. And
No, that's very nice of
it's
you to say.
beautiful to
Thank you.
see. And I don't think that a lot of doctors do that and are even open for that. And so I really, really appreciate your work. And now that the people have the opportunity to read the God shot even better. So I will
Thank you.
definitely leave that in the show notes. And um, yeah, like as a final question, if if there were something that could make your work even bigger, like
Mhm.
if there was something that you could use in your work to make that even effectiver or even faster, what would it be?
I mean, bigger impact, you were saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So actually, funny you asked that question. I didn't prep you with that, but that's a great question. So I am trying to set up, so I am a CMO, Chief Medical Officer for, it's called Stella Medical Health. So we have offices, 24 offices in United States, one in Israel, and four in Australia. I'm trying to set those up everywhere. So I found somebody in Mexico City actually who I'm going to train so he can start doing things there. But I'm very interested. So I found a translator to be able to translate the gut shot into Spanish actually. I'm also applying for a visa in Portugal. So I'm interested in Brazil. That's part of the reason I want to talk to you about that. So
Yeah.
Portuguese language. So my site is going to have multiple modules so you can read what it's about. But I potentially am looking for two things. If I mean, an ideal world, we can always ask the universe behind us, right? They're everywhere. Um, so I'm interested in potentially finding either agents or publishers in other countries across the globe because trauma is universal. It's everywhere. It's
Yeah.
not going to get any better. It's going to get worse, I think, unfortunately. So I think this book should be internationally read. We're going to have, it's going to be released in English February 17th. I can certainly get it translated into Spanish, but I'd like to do it in coordination with a publishing house
Yeah.
in multiple countries. The other part is if you know of physicians who are pain physicians who know how to use ultrasound in other countries, I'd like to find every one of them, frankly. I'd like people in Switzerland, Germany, France, Portugal, anywhere. Because for example, I brought in a lady who runs two hospitals in Kiev, and I was born in Ukraine, next to Kiev, actually. So she's been treating people in Kiev with all this horrible stuff going on. So, but I would like to have that globally. And I think, if anything, if there is a way that people have social media, I would like to have people go on the website, and we'll put it in the notes, but itsptsi.com. There is a survey there. I think it's 7, 8 question survey, something like that. And then what I'm trying to do with that survey is to make American Psychiatric Association change the name PTSD to PTSI. I
Mhm.
presented my findings in 2023. I went through the whole official progress. They go, not enough information, not enough data. So that was 3,000 people. But if I can get 100,000, a million, I think I can achieve it. And I think that change, one letter, can save thousands of lives. I'm
Yeah.
convinced of that. One letter change. So, with all of the possible connections internationally and everything, I cannot believe we cannot get 100,000 or a million people to do the survey. It costs nothing. You don't have to leave your email. We're not trying to do anything like that. This is not any kind of scheme of anything, but it needs to get changed. And people like, a four-star general and a top psychiatrist in his day, 2013, went to APA and they told him basically, goodbye, we don't want to talk to you about it. It's like, well, there's no scientific explanation for that. There's no science behind it. They don't feel like doing it, and we won't get into the reasons why. But the point is, I want the survey done, number one. Number two, if I can find all the publishing capabilities across the globe. Number three, finding the docs to do it. Because, like, for example, I talked to a couple of doctors in the Netherlands, and I go, well, it's hard to, we know how to do the block, but it's not accepted. People don't know if it's going to work, blah, 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 all of that. So you need somebody like me to help them. There's also a major study being done in NYU right now, which is a major institution in New York. Hopefully it'll be out first quarter next year, and I think it'll change a lot. But it's weird for people because most people are used to a very slow progress psychiatrically. and it's a lifestyle. 20 years, by that point, a lot of people are already dead, either from suicide, heart attacks, whatever. Time is now.
Yeah.
I hate the misery. The PTSD misery drives me crazy. That's what drives me, actually. And I've seen so many people, their lives completely changed. And a lot of people, like that, are the last thing, if I may, I'll get on a high horse a little bit. So in Brussels, there was a young lady, I think she was 16 when there was a terrorist attack. She had PTSD from that. So she tried every treatment, was not stellate, psychiatric drugs, everything, 20 different drugs. And at 23 years old, they did euthanasia. They killed her. So at 23 years old, they haven't tried stellate. They haven't tried ketamine. She's dead, right? They put her to sleep. And they're doing it like euthanasia for mental health. It's kind of gray area to me. But,
Yeah.
and her letter before she died, she said, I wish there were treatments that could have helped me. Really? 23 years old?
That's too young.
That happened 2 years ago in Brussels.
Crazy.
Right?
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you
Thank you.
for your work, for everything that you put into this world to make a change, to to do something really active that the people can really feel their own essence. They can relax in their own body and they are not a stranger anymore in their own body. So it's really powerful what you do, and I hope that a lot of people are listening and really caring also for the people that are there surrounded and you can see they need help. So this is the man that you're searching for, and
Nice.
just go into the show notes, look in, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Abonniere diesen Kanal oder folg uns auf Spotify und YouTube für mehr tiefe Folgen und hohes Fliegen. Denn du bist es wert, geliebt zu sein.